Donington Park here in Leicestershire is the venue for the Ginetta GT5 Championship's latest chapter in what has been a fascinating story in 2020. A really interesting championship battle developing between some of the regular front runners in the series, and we're heading now towards the business end of the year as well. Only a few rounds left after this one, and points therefore starting to become more and more important. We've had two races already this weekend. We've had two different winners from those races as well. Josh Malin won the first race to put himself well and truly back in the mix for the championship, but he could only finish fourth in race two, with Gordon Much taking a long-awaited first victory of the season in that second race. Here then is how they will line up for race three. It's the results of that race that set the grid, so it's Much on pole with Johnny Wilkinson alongside him. James Taylor and Josh Malin make up the second row of the grid, and those are the top four drivers in the championship. Rory McKean and John Bennett are on the third row of the grid, with Ashley Marshall and Dan Budd on row number four. Ian Duggan is the leading AM driver, right on the grid alongside Jesse Chamberlain to round out the top 10. The AMs and the pros mix in this championship, no separate grids. Blake Anglis and Richard Tetlow are next. Tetlow is the second of the AM drivers, and Phil McGarty next is third in AM, and he's got Charlie Budd for company on the seventh row of the grid. Karim Sekat is on row 8 alongside Bal Sidhu, with Magnus Crickleby and Conor Garlick. I don't think at the back of the grid, no. Conor Garlick sustained quite a lot of damage in a couple of bits of contact yesterday, and although he got the car to the end of the race, the chassis appears to have been damaged, and he's not able to take the start for either of the two races today, which is a shame. Conor was sixth in the points going into this weekend, but I suspect he may not be anymore. Championship-wise, it was actually a tie for the championship lead going into this morning's second race of the weekend, and that tie saw James Taylor and Ollie Wilkinson sharing the championship lead on 221 points apiece, and Josh Malin a further 11 back. But of course, with Johnny Wilkinson finishing second in race number 2 and James Taylor only third, Wilkinson will have pulled out now a slight margin over the second place driver, with Josh Malin falling back a little bit more in with that fourth position, but they're still all pretty close together. Of course, it was Gordon Much who was fourth in the points, who really needed a win and pulled it out of the bag in the previous race, and taking the 35 points for the race victory. Fastest lap in that race went to Johnny Wilkinson, so he gets the points, the bonus point for that. But yeah, Gordon Much set a really good pace in that one to take the race victory by over a second, which in Ginetta GT5 Challenge terms is pretty comfortable. So, waiting for the back couple of rows to be in position. The final race of the day here from a very sunny Donington Park. Great to see most of the crowd have stuck around to the end of the day as well. Let's hope that we can give them a race worth waiting for then. The third race of the weekend, round number 10 of the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT5 Challenge, is underway now. From the pole position, it's Gordon Much that will try to get the hammer down. Johnny Wilkinson makes another poor start, just as he did in the earlier race, and he is getting swamped once more. Josh Malin comes around the outside trying to break into second place, and he does it. Josh Malin is into P2, and Johnny Wilkinson is stuck in the middle there. Around the outside goes the 47 of Daniel Budd, who's had a brilliant start. Oh, Richard Tetlow sideways. Hopefully they all get through. They do. But that was a brilliant start, that from Josh Malin, from fourth on the grid to second. That's exactly what he did in yesterday's race, and then halfway round the first lap, he mugged Gordon Much for the lead going into McLean. Let's see whether he can do that again. There's Johnny Wilkinson. He's fallen right down the order, down to fifth actually, behind Rory McKean this time. And then right behind him is John Bennett, the number 27 car there, the white and blue car. Right into McLean's, and Gordon Much is wise to that move this time. He defends the inside, doesn't allow Josh Malin to get through where he overtook him yesterday. And so Josh Malin is going to have to try and get inventive here, try to think of another place maybe that he can make this move work. Oh, Johnny Wilkinson into the back of McKean there, going through Coppice Corner. He's got to try and get on with this as well before the leading two maybe start to pull away from the rest. So down to the chicane, into the final sector for the first time, side by side there. Oh, and that's McKean, who is the first person all day to properly hit that tyre stack on the entrance to the chicane, and that's done quite a bit of damage to the front left corner. Johnny Wilkinson, though, had to get off the throttle to avoid hitting him, and so up the inside goes John Bennett. He might get both of them. No, he runs out wide. He forces McKean wide with him. Oh, there's more contact on the exit of the corner. McKean's off the road, and, well, Johnny Wilkinson can count himself lucky there, because he very nearly lost 2 positions and actually ended up gaining 1 and getting back into P4. That was very fortunate indeed for the 18 car. The championship leader can count himself lucky, I think, there. So Gordy Much leads the opening lap. Josh Malin is second. Third is James Taylor. They've pulled quite a gap on Johnny Wilkinson, haven't they? Wilkinson is nearly 2 seconds behind them at the end of lap number 1. Then it is John Bennett, and there you can see the 25 car of McKean fell all the way down to 8th place after that second skirmish that he had down at the hairpin. Now, this is a replay. It's not actually a tyre wall, it's a rector-cell barrier, but it still can do quite a bit of damage to the car when you hit it. And that was a pretty substantial bit of contact they made. Speaking of contact, oh, off into the gravel goes the number 8 car of Ian Duggan. That was contact with, I think, Charlie Budd. Which of the Budds was he racing with? Yeah, it was Charlie Budd. They were debating 11th place overall, and Ian Duggan digs his way out of the gravel trap, so no need for a safety car, thankfully, but that's his race rather ruined. And that all looked a little bit avoidable, you had to say, going down the Craner curves. See the damage there to the front of McKean's car, and that's going to be a concern for him, I think, if he's if that bonnet starts to flap up in front of the windscreen. We've seen that quite a lot with these Ginetta G40s. It's the bonnets open backwards, if you like, so not the way that most traditional bonnets open from the front. You actually open it from the windscreen and it pulls back, so if you hit the brakes and the wind resistance dies, it can lift up in front of the windscreen and stop you being able to see where you're going into the corner. Doesn't look like it's too bad at the moment, but he is in danger of sustaining more damage, actually. He gets into the back of Jesse Chamberlain there through the Melbourne hairpin. Side-by-side battle there between John Bennett in 5th and Daniel Budd, who's having a good race here. Daniel started the race 8th. He's gained 1 place, and he'd like to gain another one here if he can, break into the top 6. Across the line they go then. Much leads the way, but Josh Malin in 2nd sets the fastest lap. That is worth a bonus point, but more importantly, really, it gets him now almost within half a second of the race leader, Gordy Much, who will be buoyed, no doubt, by the fact that he's had his first win of the year now, and will want to try and get another one if he can. Down through the Craners. Brilliant piece of road. The setting sun, meaning we get this typical autumnal view at Donington Park. It really is a spectacular place to come and race at any time of the year, especially later in the year. Up the inside there, nice move made by the number 66 of Magnus Kruklevi against Charlie Budd. But we know Charlie doesn't just give over when someone gets alongside him, and indeed he was able to keep him at bay. Leaders rattling over the curbs into Coppice Corner. Josh Malin, who has a race win already to his credit this weekend. He has 4 other race wins. He's won by far more races than anybody else, but as I made the point earlier on, he had that penalty at Alton Park for contact with James Taylor, and that kind of scuppered the start of his season, really, although he then made up for that with a brilliant double at the British Touring Car meeting at Alton Park a few weeks later in quite tricky conditions. Made some fantastic overtakes to win the live race on the Sunday. And then got another race victory at Knock Hill in front of the cameras as well. Oh, that was a nice move there. Rory McKean past Jesse Chamberlain with the obligatory bit of contact. There won't be a straight panel left on that 25 car at the end of the race. He's getting well and truly stuck in, and Chamberlain is going to try and fight back here. They've also got the 29 car of Ashley Marshall on their tail. Can't tell it's number 29 because he's got a big witness mark down the right-hand side of the car, but I assure you it is. The black and green, they can see number 29 poking out of line. Jesse Chamberlain weaves to the outside, weaves to the inside, back to the outside again. Which way is he going to go? Well, in the end, no way is the answer. Stays in line. And no change in the order. At the front of the field, by the way, Gordy Much has now set the fastest lap, a 1:45.252. 8 tenths quicker than, 8 tenths ahead, excuse me, of Josh Malin. 2 tenths quicker than in that time. Now you can see that bonnet is starting to become a bit of a nuisance for McKean. But he's at least got clear view in that he's overtaken Jesse Chamberlain now. His next target is Daniel Budd, who is the best part of 2 seconds up the road at the moment. There they saw him just flashing through. Also looking towards the sharp end of the field, Johnny Wilkinson, I think, can catch James Taylor here before the end of the race. And in fact, he already has. I was about to say this gap was 7 tenths of a second at the start of the lap. It's nothing now as they go into the chicane, because Wilkinson was 4 tenths quicker than Taylor in sector 1 and another 1.5 tenths quicker in sector 2, and that was it. He's with him now. Josh Malin also is lapping a bit quicker this time than Gordy Much, the race leader, so the leaders are getting together. Third place is side by side into the Melbourne hairpin. Wilkinson wide line in, tight line out. Quite hard to do there though. It's a surprisingly long corner, the Melbourne hairpin, for what you would imagine is a pretty simple stop-start 180-degree turn. But Johnny Wilkinson here needs these points really. As it stands right now, well, he would lose the same or a similar amount of points to Taylor that he gained on him in the previous race. They're going to be pretty much equal on points again if he stays behind Taylor. If he gets ahead of Taylor, though, of course, that all changes. This is an important scrap between the top two in the points, and that will not be lost on these two drivers. Down the hill, and having confidently said that the lead gap was coming down on the previous lap, it actually went out to 1.3 seconds. So I don't know if Josh Malin made a mistake in the final sector, but well, no, actually, I think it's a combination of that and the fact that Gordy Much set a new fastest lap of 1:45.194. Goes Ashley Marshall in the 29 car, still stuck behind Jesse Chamberlain, who is not letting Rory McKean escape. So McKean, is McKean lapping quicker than Daniel Budd? No. So McKean, I think, for the remainder of the race, is going to have to switch to defence, and that is James Taylor. James Taylor is off at McLean's from third position, and that means that Johnny Wilkinson most definitely has gone through. But what happened there? Was there contact? James Taylor's been on the receiving end of contact already a few times this year. He won't be happy if it's happened again with another of his championship contenders. And James Taylor now has some serious work to do. He's rejoined just ahead of Blake Anglis. So he's 10th place is James. Oh, and look at the mess on the road through the chicane. Someone's been through the gravel there, haven't they? Marshall almost into the back of Chamberlain, and into the back of him goes Magnus Krickleby. This has trouble written all over it, doesn't it? Krickleby up the inside of Marshall, up the inside of everyone. He gets past Chamberlain as well, and almost thought about having a go at McKean. 2 places gained there for Krickleby. James Taylor now finds himself right in the middle of a battle that he did not want to be a part of, but he's got no choice now. He's got to get his elbows out, try to pick his way back through. Through the final corner he goes, around the outside of Jesse Chamberlain, the 64 car we're talking about here. James Taylor, who's having a bit of a nightmare end to the weekend after being pretty successful so far here at Donington Park. 4th place yesterday, and then obviously that 3rd place earlier on. He's now at the inside of Ashley Marshall, but Marshall ain't going to make this easy. They're all in the same class. They're all fighting for position and points, and although Marshall is not a championship contender, he still wants the best result that he can get. He doesn't really care whether it's the championship front runner that he's racing with or not. Taylor out of the old hairpin, now into 8th position, so 8th place would be worth 14 points, but a race win, which is what Gordy Much is on for at the moment, is worth 35. So you can see how quite quickly you can end up losing a pretty substantial championship lead. Here's a replay of what happened. Oh, that looked like contact, didn't it? We didn't quite catch the start, so I won't say that for certain, but the two cars were very close together. He and Johnny Wilkinson I'm talking about here. That may be discussed after the race, quite possibly. Car number 10, by the way, which is Karim Sekat, being given a black and white warning flag for track limits, but he is running down in 16th place, 4th place in the AM class, which is being led by Richard Tetlow, with Balsidou second, Phil McGarty third, and Karim Sekat fourth. Those four are all nose to tail. Magnus Krickleby with another late lunge, this time on the inside of Rory McKean, and he wasn't quite able to make it work into the corner, and so now they drag up the hill side by side, and James Taylor, of course, is catching all the time. Can he get up the inside of Krickleby through the hairpin? Magnus is stuck on the outside line. Taylor sticks his nose in the gap. Magnus Krickleby is going to try and hang on around the outside, and does so, and that means he carries more speed down the hill off the corner, and then also gets a nice slipstream from McKean, whose car is aerodynamically challenged, as we know. Krickleby's to the inside, and I don't think McKean wanted to make that any harder than he had to, really, although he's running him round the outside, and well, Krickleby left him some room there, more room than he probably had to, but it's not going to work out for McKean. James Taylor now has the run on the inside, but he's boxed in behind Magnus Krickleby. They're almost touching down through the Craner curves. This is a scary part of the track to run side by side. Krickleby goes through, Taylor goes through, 2 more places lost then for Rory McKean, and Ashley Marshall will now set about trying to get past him once more. Those two have been racing together for most of this 15-minute race, which is racing by 3.5 minutes on the clock. We got 9 laps in the previous race. Oh, and that into the into the gravel is Balsidou at Redgate Corner. The next words out of my mouth were about to be, we got 9 laps in the early race because we didn't have a safety car. And the next shot is of a car in the gravel trap at Redgate Corner. Now, they can send the live snatch vehicle out there. They've got the live snatch vehicle at Redgate, but that is right in the firing line, which obviously is a consideration that the race director is going to have to make. Quickly now defending from James Taylor, but there's little he can do. I think Taylor's going to come through here at the hairpin. Snatches a break, gets the inside line. He's going to run quickly out wide, and Taylor is through. So that puts him now 7th place. He can definitely get, 6th place, excuse me, because they're both ahead of McKean, aren't they? And the next car is Daniel Budd, who's kind of slowly fallen back into the clutches of this pack. It would be a shame if Daniel were to lose this a few more places here. Daniel still hasn't had a top 5 finish all year, and he's running in 5th now, but not for much longer. James Taylor is there, but of course he can't overtake into Redgate because there are double-waved yellow flags because of the Balsidou car, which has ended up in the gravel trap. Bal was a part of that 4-way scrap for the lead in the AM category. Whether he was roughed up or found himself in the gravel of his own accord, I don't know. They have used a live snatch there, so no need for a safety car. Good news all round. James Taylor, has a go, has to be careful though. This is probably the last overtake that he's realistically going to make, so he can afford to wait to make sure that it's a good one and a clean one, more to the point. It's not really under any huge pressure from Cricklevy behind, and he goes through. Nice move. Inside line at McLean's, and Cricklevy tried to follow him. If he'd have been a car length closer, he would have been able to do so. So Daniel Budd down to 6th place now, but he can still, if he's sensible here, he'll latch onto the tail of James Taylor, and maybe the two of them can work together over the last lap and a half to get away from that crazy pack behind. Ashley Marshall is now alongside Rory McKean there. Marshall in the number 29 car on the outside line. Oh no, can't do it. Watch for Jesse Chamberlain because he had a much better line through the corner. 5-second penalty for car 25, which is Rory McKean. Don't know why, I'm guessing track limits. So all of this, of course, happening a long way behind Gordy Much, who is blissfully unaware of the antics of those behind him. He is on for a very comfortable win, isn't he? Josh Malin in 2nd place, just can't quite keep up with him. Josh will be a little frustrated maybe not to have got more out of this weekend, having clearly had the pace in yesterday's race, but he's still going to be up there, especially with James Taylor's problems. Taylor is not going to do any better than 5th place in this one, I don't think. Next question is whether or not Daniel Budd can hang on to 6th, because Magnus Cricklevy is there. He's surely going to have a look on the inside at Redgate. No, decided against it. So Daniel Budd, former one-make mini racer with great success. That looked like a bit of contact being made there. That's 24 Richard Tetlow and Karim Sekat, who has got 2nd place in the AM category away from him now. Phil McGarty still leading in the AM class by now 2.3 seconds as a result of Balsidou spinning off from, I think he was in 2nd place at the time. Side-by-side action now. Ashley Marshall, still hasn't got past Jesse Chamberlain, and now, of course, he's under pressure from Charlie Budd as Daniel Budd loses it. Oh no, Daniel Budd spins. He's collected by Rory McKean. He's stuck in the gravel trap. Daniel Budd, on the verge of his best result of the season, has lost it through McLean's corner. There's damage to the back of the car where McKean clattered into him. Well, McLean was already set for a 5-second time penalty, and now that is rather irrelevant, I have to say, but that is a serious shame for Daniel Budd, and that was just a mistake under pressure by the looks of it. So Daniel Budd then drops out of 6th place, right down to the back of the pro class, really. At the head of the pro class, though, is this man, Gordy Much, who got his 1st win of the season in race number 1. He's going to get his 2nd win in race number 2. He takes the checkered flag, and he is very much a title contender now. Josh Malin comes home in 2nd place, and it's Johnny Wilkinson in 3rd position. John Bennett 4th. Now, is that John Bennett's best result of the year so far? I reckon it might be, you know. Has he had a top 5? Oh no, he has had a couple of top 5s already, including a 4th place, so it equals his best of the year. James Taylor 5th, 6th Magnus Cricklevy, 7th for Ashley Marshall. Charlie Budd gets at least one of the Budd brothers into the top 10 ahead of Jesse Chamberlain and Blake Anglis. And where is Daniel? There he is. Comes out of the final corner, and he's going to be the last of the pro drivers home in 12th position. There goes Phil McGarty, the number 81 car, leading in the AM category. heads out of the final turn. The battle is still on for second between Karim Sekat and Richard Tetlow, but it's going to be Sekat, I think. No, Tetlow who comes through. Where is Sekat's dropped right back? So Tetlow gets second, Duggan third, and Karim Sekat drops down to fourth position. So there was a bit of a mix-up there. I think I caught a glimpse of that at the top of the screen as this man came through to take the checkered flag. They were all kind of side by side down the exhibition straight in the background. So there's been a big sort out there in the AM class. But it is Gordy Much who gets himself his second win of the year. Another 35 points, 36 points, in fact, a maximum points haul from that race with the fastest lap. He's right up there in the points now. Josh Malin second and third for Johnny Wilkinson. John Bennett and James Taylor round out the top 5 ahead of Magnus Kricklevy. Ashley Marshall, Charlie Budd, Jesse Chamberlain and Blake Anglish rounding out the top 10 ahead of Rory McKean. And the luckless Daniel Budd. Phil McGarty wins in the AM class with Richard Tetlow and Ian Duggan joining him on the AM class podium. It was Karim Sekat, the last of the finishes actually, because Balsidou was in the gravel at Redgate Corner. Highlights then of the final race of the day, the third race of the day for the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT5 Challenge. Another terrible start made by Johnny Wilkinson. He needs to work on that, I think, for future rounds. Gordy Much got the lead and Josh Malin bullied his way through into second place. There was the usual argy-bargy into Redgate Corner. Daniel Budd had a great start though, and he was up on the outside of John Bennett, challenging for a top 6 position straight away. Field ran through Hollywood for the first time, down into the Craner curves. There was some very, very close quarter stuff. No contact being made as Gordy Much and Josh Malin tried to pull away at the head of the field. Through the chicane, there was drama for Rory McKean, who clattered into the marker bale on the inside of the corner, damaged the car, and then got into a real set-through with John Bennett and the Johnny Wilkinson car. McKean ending up coming off worse there, getting elbowed onto the grass. He would later get a 5-second penalty for track limits as well. Ian Duggan and Charlie Budd came together through the Craner curves, the latter leaning on one of the AM frontrunners and putting him off into the gravel. I think Duggan was leading the AM class at the time. Most frustrating, although he would be able to recover to a class podium, whilst Rory McKean was making more friends, this time with Jesse Chamberlain down at the Melbourne hairpin. Nice clean move made on the inside line. Then drama, James Taylor possibly after contact from Johnny Wilkinson. It was hard to tell from that angle. Either way, there was a spin at McLean's which lost him a whole heap of places and put him back amongst this mess that was going on towards the back of the top 10. James Taylor dicing with Jesse Chamberlain, Ashley Marshall and Magnus Kricklevy. There was contact for Balsidou down at the Melbourne Loop, and he would then end up in the gravel trap at Redgate. So it's been an eventful afternoon for Balsidou, who was in the AM lead battle until his various dramas. He joined Ian Duggan recovering, and then there he ended up stuck in the gravel. Not sure how he got there, but that meant that yellow flags were out at Redgate for the remainder of the race. And then on the final lap, Daniel Budd, running in 6th place, what would have been his best result of the year, spun it all away up at McLean's. Gordy Much then gets his second win of the weekend, his second win of the year, to put himself right into title contention, whilst in the AM category, it's another win for Phil McGarty in the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT5 Challenge.